morning. It's a beautiful day, September 11th, 2017. I'm in a city park near my residence in Istanbul, Turkey. First I want to do is to say thank you to all of my colleagues in the national security sector, law enforcement, and first responders who make not only today, but make things like this through hike possible. So thank you. Speaking of 9/11, it brought me to the question of the sort of spirit of my hike. I'm not talking about the reasons. I went through those on my first video. I'm talking about how I'm approaching it and how that affects the decisions I'll make as far as the timing, gear, and other things, which hopefully you'll have an interest in it. So, first thing is, my intent to hike the Appalachian Trail in 2018 is a deliberate one. I have experiences that I hope to enjoy maybe once in a lifetime, and to use this as a reboot or a reset, having recently retired and now moving on to the next great endeavor. But in addition to that, I tend to be a pretty deliberate person. So as a consequence, I will be moving through the hike consistent with that aspect of my personality. I'm unlikely to be using a lot of the shelters. Of course, I'll use the locations for water and camaraderie, and of course to escape particularly bad weather when it comes. But at least my intent is that I will be, using my sleep system and my shelter systems for most of the trip. Consistent with that, I don't intend to take a lot of zeros. As I'm sort of thinking through it, a lot of the guidance and advice that others have provided regarding approaching a trail town so that you can walk in the following morning early, get your things done that you need to, get a good night's sleep, and then leave the next day on another Nero. That's probably a pattern that we'll see. But you never know because of the weather. And that comes down to, why did I choose, or why do I believe I've chosen February? All of the trail town events and those sorts of things are not really appealing to me. I am definitely an extrovert, but I've been to enough Jimmy Buffett concerts that I don't need to relive my 20s or on the AT. Okay, so the last thing I just want to touch on briefly before I discuss the 1.5 items of my kit that I'd like to raise with you today is the budget. So in my instance, I really don't have a budget. I'll spend what money is necessary for the proper gear and for the food and shelter and that sort of thing that I need as I go through the hike. This is post-retirement, so I'm in a different situation than many who approach the trail. But I say that to you because I want you to have confidence in the fact that I am not, and presumably will not be, sponsored by anyone. I don't need anybody's assistance in procuring gear. And I'm certainly not going to sell out my integrity after 32 years in the business I was in to mislead folks on gear selection for a thru hike. So the gear that I select will be based specifically on my stated circumstances and requirements. So getting to it, I selected to test the Osprey Exos 58. It's a reasonably priced bag. It's a reasonably weighted bag. Most importantly for me, it has a rigid frame. I have back issues from work, as many of you in this business have. And so I need something that helps to maintain my upper body alignment and posture. So as a consequence, that was a big issue for me. The other thing was that, of course, weight. Of course, first and foremost, besides health, was the size. As we go through some of the thoughts I have regarding a shelter system, some of you are going to think I'm crazy, but ensuring that in a winter hike I would have enough space for winter clothes, maybe for extra water, if we've got frozen areas, maybe for extra food, if we've got trail towns that are sort of closed up for the winter. Those are sort of thoughts definitely that linger in my head as far as capacity. So the 58 liters gives me plenty. The other thing is that 58 liter bag is exceptionally comfortable. Even 40 pounds, I think I've got about 37 pounds in here right now. I hardly even know it's back there. Now, what did I look at? Sure, I looked at the Z packs. I looked at the Hyper Light. I looked at, sorry about that. I looked at the Granite Gear, Kelty. I have a lot of these bags anyway, but they're not through hiking bags, they're hiking bags. Arc'teryx, Mountain Hardware, but all of those were frankly quite heavy for what we're talking about. You're going to see that my wife, I think, will be in an Arc'teryx bag, but she'll be there for 4 days, so section hike's a different business. Anyway, okay, so let me just show you the bag real quick. Of course, everybody really knows that it's a very popular bag. You can see it fits really, exceptionally well. Okay, the only other, go over here for a second. The only other piece of gear I want to talk about real quickly today are the hiking shoes that I selected to test out. So, pardon me. I'm going to give you a reprieve from my ugly mug. Take you down here to the Vask Mantra 2s. I hope I got that in the picture. So these are Vask Mantra 2s. You can see that they have good coverage, but yet breathability. It was the reason that I selected them, thinking that this would be a good compromise for a winter hike. The sole was a huge reason that I selected them. You'll notice it's a Vibram sole, and look at the tread is deep, and I thought would be really good for snow, ice pack, that sort of thing that we're likely to find in February, even March, up in Georgia, North Carolina, up in the hills up there. So that was the reason that I selected these shoes. Okay, so what's my assessment of them? They're not only inappropriate for a thru hike, they're dangerous. The reason I say that is because despite of this lug, the composite or compound that the sole is made out of
is too hard. And as a consequence, it is very slippery. On any wet surface that is smooth, they become treacherous. Here today, I've slipped. If it wasn't for the poles, I literally probably would have fallen down on one occasion. And the first time I realized it was when my wife and I were downtown in Old Town Istanbul, and it was raining, and we were going down a hill, and the smooth road surface, I literally had to hold on to her so that I wouldn't fall, and she was wearing flip-flops. So that tells you the quality of the material relative to the requirement. For a casual shoe, super comfortable. The inner sole is really exceptionally soft. Does give some support for a through hike, particularly in the winter. Well, in the through hike of the AT, I don't care when, it's going to be rainy, it's going to be cold. You are not going to be literally safe in these particular shoes. So I will be moving to something else. I don't know what yet. I'll look for your comments and guidance on that. Again, I just wanted to say thank you so much to all of my colleagues, to all of you in law enforcement, the first responders who make it possible for myself and for the people watching this to live and enjoy and experience something as selfish as a through hike. And not just on this day, but every day, really appreciate it. As a side note, and not to promote something of myself, because I'm not making any money off of it, so I'll do it. If you're interested, what it was like to be in the Counterterrorism Center at the Central Intelligence Agency, I was able to get through the Publication Review Board, a sort of short story on it and on my experiences. And if you're interested in reading it, you go onto my website. Of course, it's www.nintelligenceperspective, one word, .com. And if you look for CT strategies, it starts off with that story. Anyway, just something interesting. So, listen guys, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you showing an interest in my hike, in this channel, sharing your thoughts, and then taking the time out of your schedule to watch this. If you like it, of course, I would ask that you like it. I'd ask that you subscribe if you want to continue to follow my hike, and we'll see you next time. Scars out.